Hi, Kenton. Welcome to the Future Proof Operations podcast.
Oh, hi there, Ben. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm looking forward to the interview. Before we dive into our topic, which will be innovation culture, especially in the shop floor, in the factory, please give us a short introduction of yourself in a nutshell.
Oh, right. Okay. In a nutshell, well, I'm the leader of PFF Packaging Group. We are a independent and privately owned organisation that operates mainly in the UK market, manufacturing rigid plastic and preforms around card, etc. So it gives us multi-platform. We have capabilities across thermoform and injection molding, direct print, and also we're vertically integrated into our own sheet manufacture as well.
How many people are working at PFF Packaging and how much size do you have?
Yeah, we have two sites. We have one site in Keighley in West Yorkshire and another site in Sedgefield in the northeast. We have around 250 to 300 people, depending on demand. And we operate predominantly thermoforming and extrusion from Keighley. And then we have multidisciplines up in the northeast from thermoforming through to injection molding.
Tell us a little bit more about your background. So, how did you get to being the managing director of PFF Packaging Group?
I guess I've got a background in the food industry, which
Mhm.
on the face of it is very aligned to manufacturing and packaging. So for many, many years, I've operated in the meat, poultry, dairy industries across various large scale manufacturers and PLCs in the UK and ended up, I guess, falling into packaging to a degree and realizing that a lot of the substrates that had been utilizing in a commercial world in the food sector were being manufactured by people like PFF. So the product, because we predominantly supply into the food sector, certainly feels like it was very aligned. Um, and there was an opportunity to drive and grow and build a business and take it into different directions and do that with the family and Andy, the owner of the company. And that's been an interesting journey, to say the least.
Mhm. Very, very nice. Sounds super interesting. And as I said at the beginning, we want to talk about innovation culture in the context of manufacturing companies. And to make that more concrete for our listeners, help us to understand a little bit better how your manufacturing site is looking like. So take us on a virtual factory tour that we understand. How many people are working on the shop floor? Is it a high automation level, for example? Give us some insights into that.
Sure. Well, we have all aspects. We have highly automated machines that are fully robots, serviced all the way through to manual old school techniques and capabilities. Some of our printing machines are actually relatively old for manufacturing, but still do an excellent job and ultimately offer a product at a value level that still means there's need in the marketplace. We then start most of our production through the extrusion point of view for thermoforming. So we take in raw materials at the front end and they go through extruders. And those extruders are very large scale, complicated pieces of machinery, hot, um, highly productive. We produce tens of thousands of tons of plastic sheet a year. And then that sheet is then taken through into the thermoforming processes, whether it's going through to our pots made through Gubentech machines or into illigs or keyfors to be formed into trays. But then on the other side of our business, we have sort of high-end technology as well with injection molding and hot wrapping machines, which give us different aspects to the standard packaging sort of competitors that we work against in our industry. And that can be very innovative, highly technically biased, and ultimately a very fascinating part of our business and our sectors. And we've got machines that we've innovated and machines that are the only ones in the world. And we've got then large scale injection molding in thin wall packaging, which is also relatively cutting edge in the world of injection molding.
Mhm. So as I understand, there are different parts in your factory. So there are parts which are high end, and there's already the newest technology. But on the other hand side, you talked about old machineries, for example, probably some manual processes as well. So when you think of innovation, how do you look at it? How important is it for PFF packaging?
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be, and has been for a good few years now, the lifeblood of the future of the organization. Innovation is a very simplistic word that means many things to different industries and different people. What's highly and hugely innovative for us in our industry sector at the moment is plastic reduction and sustainability credentials and using less energy to manufacture our packaging. That's highly innovative and challenging. To customers, they just see the same packaging.
Mhm.
Whereas for innovation in the eyes of the consumer, it could be something that gives you the ability for that to be more usable, gives it more practical for them to actually engage with it, whether that's the difference between a round tub versus a square or oblong one that would sit in the fridge door of your fridge at home and make it really usable. These aspects we try and combine all the way through. So wherever we do any innovative work or development that is associated with investment, we'll try and redesign products to its best. So we'll take a very innovative approach to actually say to our customers, well, what should this be? What could it be?
Mhm.
Then we start applying to that the technical side and the sustainability requirements to meet modern standards and make sure that we are achieving the very best in the marketplace. And innovation
Okay.
for us is something that we would consider ourselves highly innovative and highly entrepreneurial.
And where's that mindset coming from? Is it coming from specific people? Is it coming from your side, for example? Or are you already talking about a cultural mindset, which is within the whole organization?
So I think in answer to your question, Ben, we have an innovative culture in the leadership and the ownership of the business. Andy Bairstow, the founder of the organization, a major shareholder, is hugely innovative in the way he thinks about things. He's got a very obtuse mind that means that he does not look along the natural lines, and therefore that quite often presents solutions and innovations that are like, well, that's great. Where did that come from? I plucked that out of thin air, and that comes from 35 years plus of experience in the industry. He's hugely passionate about the technical side of our business, and he holds that very dear, I think, in his heart to trying to make sure that the business stands out and it becomes a USP, and that's a differentiating factor for us to compete against companies that we really shouldn't be able to compete against, huge billion-pound plus organizations as direct competitors. So we've got to innovate almost ahead of them at times to make sure that we satisfy our commercial goals as an organization, our customers, and also our aspirations to achieve. From within the industry, this industry can be very staid and stable in terms of its mindset and approach and workforce, and challenging that can be quite hard because it's a low margin industry sector. If
Mhm.
you can get to double digit EBITDA in packaging manufacture, you're doing very well. And in reality, that doesn't always leave commercial headroom to get the balance between the return and the scale versus the innovation. We've presented incredibly innovative solutions in the past to customers, and they're like, well, that's great. I love it. And it would work well, but I can't afford it. So we have a different challenge to do some innovation that was unbridled by the controls of commerciality or consumer needs would be great,
Mhm.
fantastic. But ultimately, we have to bring those lines of regression into order to make sure the return is balanced by the innovative aspirations of the business and the organization.
Yeah. Okay. Super interesting. I see two pillars here. On the one hand side, we talk about the innovation mindset or the innovation culture, and it needs different tools, different leadership tools, for example, that you could use to bring it into the organization. And on the other hand side, of course, you talk about cost, you talk about return on invest, and somehow you need to bring it together. You need to bring innovation and the return on innovation together. Starting with the first one, so which tools or leadership principles do you use to keep that innovation mindset or even make it stronger within your organization?
I think we do have a core mindset in the business, which is quite bloody minded, as we would refer to, which basically means y- you've got to push yourself. If it isn't straightforward, then, why we're doing it. And ultimately, we question the status quo regularly because we are looking for that angle.
Mhm.
Now, it's difficult to harness that in a formalized process, especially when you're an innovative and entrepreneurially led organization. We don't pride ourselves on being hugely bureaucratic or process orientated. We pride ourselves more on being, you know, agile and fleet of foot. And the structure and formality that comes around innovation pipelines and process flow around that isn't always something we fully engage with as an organization. We control costs, we control innovation, new product developments from a project point of view, but trying to control that innovation is quite hard and quite difficult. And
Mhm.
we quite often represent proposals to customers where we'll say, right, you should be thinking of this, you should be looking at that. We'll do presentations periodically to some of our larger clients. And that is pure innovation, pure, ideation of different concepts and solutions that are then presented. Now, there is huge barriers in our industry which stifle innovation, unfortunately, and they tend to come in the form of process operating equipment. So as much as we would innovate like we did with the Impact Tea solution, a new manufacturing methodology for card wrap pots, then getting our customers to change some of their operations to adopt it and take it on board and engage the benefits takes time, and that can be challenging. So it isn't always rewarding being innovative. Quite often it's quite frustrating, and it's difficult to predict when customers will change and clients and suppliers will change their behaviors to adopt innovation. But
Mhm.
we see it as an important part of driving ourselves forward from a technical, high value, added value sort of scenario.
Yeah, I like that very much because you said that the industry itself is somehow stable and conservative, and you are somehow one of the front runners when it's about innovation culture. And as I understand, there is there is no return on that innovation all the time. So sometimes you do it,
Yes.
and the return is missing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is a hugely competitive market we operate in as well. I mean, we should make no doubt about it. There is some very, very big fish in the pond that we work in.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm talking about the return on innovation or the return on invest, and taking a look on the cost perspective here. I give you an example from my experience when I talk with manufacturing companies, with the production leaders, and I talk about digitalizing their shop floor. Yeah? We are doing that at Operations One. First of all, you could think of we are getting rid of all the paper, and
Yeah.
this is probably the return on invest, which you would see as the first one which comes into your mind when you think about digitalizing the shop floor.
Yes.
And when the leaders ask me, okay, what is the return on invest when I get rid of that paper? Then I most of the time do not understand that question because I do not see the return on digitalizing the shop floor in getting rid of paper, but being resilient and future proof for the next decades. And
Yes.
probably we talk about a return on invest where I can't give you the numbers, but I'm pretty sure that it makes sense to digitalize the shop floor. And so my main question is, do you need or do you see a return on invest all the time for your innovation, or um, is it not the case? But you say, okay, I go for that because I believe in it.
Yeah. I mean, we tend to group and compartmentalize innovation as something that we design, we create, we launch. But innovation is lots of things. It can be the way that you look at a problem or a solution. It can be the processes you deploy in your business. It can be the way you capture data or retain data.
Mhm.
And it's very difficult sometimes to justify expenditure and project uh, investment unless there's clear return on investment. Now, we generally do focus on doing the right thing wherever we can. And quite often, innovation can be as a result of trying to drive the right thing because paperwork can be fudged in the future. And if it's your only form of record keeping, it doesn't do well in the fire. So
Yeah.
taking yourself and a business forward to be more resilient is about transformation. And if you want to try and build a business that's resilient and transformative and future proof, which is what you're referring to, Ben, then ultimately you've got to look at some aspects of your innovation and change as not being totally return on capital employed.
Yeah. So you believe in that, or is
Yeah.
the daily
Mm.
business different? And in the daily business, you have to take a look on the cost, and if you don't have the return on investment, you just not do it.
Yeah. Quite often we do things because it's the right thing to do. We don't
Yeah. Okay.
always, we don't always say that, this is going to pay back. I mean, I think, in the current economic climate, I think the country is verging on recession from a manufacturing point of view. You'll probably find that the aptitude to want to rush to do things that aren't returning or saving money, they're not there. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be something that you shouldn't do.
We are diving into the next topic. And connected to innovation, I just want to know which technology or which innovation right now is on your top agenda. Is it AI? Is it AR? Is it something completely different? Just to understand what you are thinking of right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through a very heavy capital investment program in sort of the last 12, 18 months with innovation on technology
Hmm.
and the merging of two sites in the Northeast onto one. So we have probably invested ahead of ourselves in the last year. This forthcoming year is going to be very much about return on investment, making sure the new technologies continue to perform as we get into like the first 12 months of full running. Um,
Okay.
we we would normally have a couple of projects underway that are innovative, a couple of projects which are technology advancements, and there's always something going on from an IT project point of view, whether it's a server upgrade, etc. Now, that means that we've probably got a year ahead of us of consolidation, really.
Okay. And if you think about the specific innovation in terms of new technologies which you are implementing, is it the paperless factory? Is it automation? So, what is on your agenda, or what have been on your agenda in the last years?
I think very much the agenda that we're pursuing and have done for the last year is data capture. So
Hmm.
live data capture wherever possible to try and inform decision making. Um, with aged assets in this industry sector, quite often they're not data rich. Some of the newer assets are a little bit more data aligned, so they can produce information and performance fees themselves. But I think virtualizing that to the point that we can make ourselves a lean manufacturing organization from the management side is part of our innovative approach.
Hmm.
You know, everybody is cost cutting at the moment, as you'd expect with regards national performance and GDP, etc. But ultimately, when it comes to next year and volume starts to return, we've got to try and maintain that lean manufacturing and management and system approach that we've adopted now. And to do that, we've got to do more with what we've got under our belt.
Hmm.
So systemization and automation of processes from a admin, finance, customer service, you name it, they are all things that we should be focused on delivering for next year.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. You mentioned lean manufacturing. The term lean is already a lot of years old. And I have
Yes.
the perception that right now it's getting a new kind of momentum. How do you think about lean manufacturing and how you will gonna implement that in the next years?
Well, I think Factory 2.0 is probably the next stage in terms of thinking more as a move on from lean. And
Hmm.
that is very much about using digital assets to try and inform, which is kind of what I was referring to. But we tend to find that the leanest we can be is when we are at our where there's a nice position in volume where you've got good flow right through the factories and you almost perform more lean with volume than you do when you're trying to just get by in the marketplace. And that in itself is something that we've got to be prepared for. So at the moment, let's say that we increase our volume, say 25 to 30% through the summer period. We need to maintain the same size of our customer service team, for instance, and even though they've got to process another 30% of orders, we've got to try and find ways to maintain that size so it doesn't grow. And we need to do that through electronic order dispatches, etc., monitoring of our supply chain through software systems and make sure they're integrated into all aspects. And trying to utilize exactly where and how and when we do things. Because at the moment, I think it's easy to get fat by just saying, well, let's just employ somebody to do that. Let's just bring somebody else in. And that in its way, I think is probably going to be the symptomatic challenge that we've got to face for the whole of next year. How do we maintain headcount while we continue to go back into peak periods through summer?
Okay. Okay. You already talked about the outlook for next year.
Hmm,
Kenton, we are already coming to the last question. I really enjoyed the conversation. We talked about innovation and the return on innovation, the return on invest. And my last question will be about the future, not just next year, but the next 10 years. So
sure.
if you think about your factory, your company, so PFF Packaging Group, what is your vision 10 years from now? How will it look like when I then go into a factory tour and you show me your factory?
Yes. So the next 10 years would be technology growth and innovation growth. It would be. We've got to continue to drive that. The future of
Yeah.
our industry is not mass production of standardized plastic trays in the way that it has been in the previous 10 years. The landscape in the last five has changed so dynamically. We've faced the war on plastic. We've then reversed all the way through the pandemic, and now we're into a a full-blown cost of living crisis nationally, we've got to value the assets that we have and find better ways of utilizing that. And as a business that sells plastic and profits on the back of selling plastic, it's amazing how much time we spend on trying to sell less plastic. We've got to lightweight products. We've got to make sure that they are returned correctly. And we've got to highlight in the industry, and I think you're going to see a lot of this year, where there's going to be a strong pushback on products that are nothing more than greenwashing. Because there's lots of packaging solutions out there that have a better consumer impact visually because of how they look and what they're made of, but ultimately are then going from something that was fully recycled and recyclable to something that is not and won't be. But just because it looks away, it looks great. I think 10 years time from now, we will probably have doubled in size, and ultimately we'll be led a little bit more through our added value solutions with regards printing, decoration, wrapping, than we are with regards to thermoforming.
Kenton, it was a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks for being on
Likewise,
the
Ben.
show.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Good to talk to you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.